XXL's The Break is for all you aspiring rappers who need a little help getting on. This is the place to get all the info on how to make it in hip-hop from some of the biggest and most experienced names in the game, like me, your dope boy Troy Ave. Pay attention as special guests drop knowledge to help you become a star. This is XXL's The Break Podcast.
What's up? This is Vanessa Satten from XXL. I'm sitting here with Miranda here for our second podcast. The first episode we did with was Building Your Identity. That was for XXL's The Break, and we got a lot of good feedback on that. So there we had Wale, Mike Karen, Joey Badass give us some interviews about what rappers should do to build their identity. This episode, we're focusing on what to focus on. So this is basically, you're a new artist, you've decided to that you want to be a rap star, maybe, and you are learning how to build your identity and now kind of figuring out, well, what should you focus on? Should you focus on recording? Should you focus on getting photo shoots and buying Gucci belts? Should you focus on going on tour, making videos? Not just really what you spend your money on, but what you put your energy towards. Mm-hmm. For this episode, who did we speak to, Miranda?
Yes, we spoke to Jay Grand.
Jay Grand, Senior Vice President of A&R at RCA Records.
Yes. And then we spoke with ASAP Rocky, as well as Vic Mensa.
Right. So Vic Mensa, XXL freshman, ASAP Rocky, All Is Love. Mm-hmm. And they give us some information on what they did early to focus on in their careers before they got where they're at. Right. So I guess we're going to start off with Jay Grand. Jay Grand is definitely a wealth of information, sort of definitely like Mike Karen in our last podcast. So Jay Grand gives us a whole bunch of information beyond just what to focus on. But, and I think we actually talk to him again for another episode coming down the pike in a few weeks. But right now, Jay Grant's going to give a little information on what he looks for with a new artist, what they're focusing on, what they pay attention to, and kind of what impresses him.
Mm-hmm. It's very important because it kind of tells, what the label's looking at early on, like where, the label is going to look to, what things you have to do to kind of catch the label's eye. So drop some gems for us.
What's up, everybody? Jay Grand, RCA Records, Senior Vice President, A&R, and Marketing. Pleasure to speak to everybody today. Vanessa, what do we call this podcast? Is this your podcast? Is this the XXL podcast?
The XXL podcast for right now. We've been calling Dine to come out and blow up just for fun. But we haven't figured all that out yet. We're still working on that. We're getting, our different episodes together.
Got it.
What I wanted to talk to you about was you're, I believe, the first label rep we spoke to, and I wanted to know from your perspective and just from your expertise of everything you've done in the past, what should these new kids be focused on? You're a new artist. You just, and new, I mean very, very new. Your next door neighbor, is rapping, that kind of thing. But you've decided as a new artist, whether you're in New York or Tupelo, Mississippi, or wherever you are, that you want to be a rapper. What's the first thing these kids you think should be focusing on?
Being unique and doing what's true to you. I think a lot of artists make mistakes, hearing something and being like, wow, I can do that, or just following a trend or whatever it may be, especially more now so than ever, I think, with the ability to get your own music out there. Do your own thing. And if doing you means sounding like someone else, there's nothing wrong with that too, so long as you own it and you happen to do it. Like, the Drew kid sounds like Nas. Like, hey, that's cool, so fine, so own that. Like, I wouldn't change my voice to. But otherwise, do what's true to you as an artist and what you feel.
Now, that's something you brought up. So back in the day, Shine had problems sounding like Biggie. Fast forward 110 years, ASAP Rocky doesn't have the same problem sounding like he's from Houston. So it seems like there does make sense that this now, it's not mimicking, but sounding like someone is looked at more like flattering, being more flattering than it is being negative like it used to be, no?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think there's some chameleons out there. I don't want to say any names, but there are artists that I personally laugh at when they change their style 4 times in 6 years to mimic, whatever the current wave is. I'd be embarrassed if I was doing that as an artist, but fortunately I don't record, so.
All right, so you're a new artist. How important do you think it is to get in touch with someone like you if you're a new artist?
It really depends what your goals are. There's some people that really just want to make music for themselves and be happy, or their friends, or whatever it may be, and aren't looking to, tour the world and sell millions of records and be famous and, have the world hear your music. Some people are happy, in their little hometown doing their thing. Like that's reality. I had a crazy conversation with a signed artist the other day that he was talking about, like, I do this, kind of just because, like, I'm happy. I don't care about making money. I don't care whether everyone hears these records. Like, the most important thing to me is that it's true to what I want to do, and that it's 100%, by my doing that. Until it's perfect, I don't want it out there.
Right.
I would tell most artists as well, it's very hard to be perfect. So, and I appreciate perfectionism, but that's a very hard thing to do when it comes to music, because I feel like most people, they hear something and then you'll find something new or want to change something, and you may never get to that place you want to be.
I think something that really interesting that you just said, which we haven't really touched on too much, is deciding what kind of artist you're going to be on. Do you want to be a superstar? Do you want to kind of, we call it the blue-collar rapper who, lives, it's not really a 9 to 5, but goes to their work, does their shows, puts out, there's certain tapes that are fine with their level of success that they can survive on and take care of their family. I think that's interesting. Do you think most artists go in saying, I want to be a huge star? Or do you think they don't even plan that going in? And how important is it to visualize that from the start?
I don't know that you need to be set one way or the other, and I think it depends on the person's personality. I've watched some, let's say, meek personalities end up being, mega stars, and I've seen some big personalities choose not to even be mega stars, or to kind of shy away from the limelight. I don't think there's a set formula there at all.
Do you think that that's something you kind of fall into along the way?
Yeah. And I think, and it depends on how hard you want to go for it too. It all takes work. So you're not going to get there unless you're working for it.
What do you think of some of the wrong moves artists make very early going in?
Spamming A&R's Twitter timelines with ridiculous things that you say to 30 people in a row. If I click on it for fun and I see you just hit 29 other people saying the exact same thing, I get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, people should get that at this point. Be different. Like, I'll actually go through my Twitter timeline every once in a while, and if I see somebody doing something funny, different, unique, attention-grabbing, specific to me, those are always, things that'll get you popped up a little bit, as opposed to doing what everyone else is doing, or just mass volume please.
How important do you think to define who you are musically or your sound as an artist early on? Do you think that's possible, or do you think that's something you also kind of stumble into? I mean, how much confidence should you have in the very beginning?
I think it depends on your level of musicianship and what you're actually doing. I think if you play something, or you play a few instruments, and you may be a little bit more focused than somebody who is just a singer or a writer or a rapper or whatever it may be. I don't think there's any problem with, changing your style and adjusting your style as you're learning your craft. I think it's harder once you're established and people start to get to know who you are to switch up, because unless you've got, a reason for doing it.
Then that's when they might give you the hard time about switching up your style or your sound or trying to change who you are, right?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. So what, if you're a new artist, and what do you think that is the best thing kind of to spend your money on early on? A lot of guys want to get publicists. A lot of guys want to, spend money on big video budgets, on bringing all their boys around, because, it gives them a crew and shows that they have, a lot of people that are supporting them. What do you think is a focus for money when you're an early artist, and what do you think you don't need?
I think it depends on the artist. I think if you're a visual artist, you need videos. I think most artists these days should be visual artists. Like, I think it's really cool what Licky Lee did. Like, she's actually on the label. But, the mask that she's actually not wearing, she'll tell you she's not wearing a mask. Like, that's her thing, and she needs the visuals to, or that's a part of her thing, and she needs the visuals to, portray that.
Right.
And I think shooting cool videos, not just about her specifically, in general, is always a great idea. Like, it's it's a visual medium now, so you need to have something cool visually to potentially pop up what you're doing musically. Like it's definitely, that would be my number one pick in terms of things I would spend time on, not even necessarily money. Like, do a great creative video.
Right.
Plural.
Conversation pieces.
Yeah, I think I mean, most people aren't out making, like, I spend a ton of money mixing my records and getting them right. Like, I'm an audiophile for those things, but when you're just starting, like, that's probably not where you're at. You're probably not taking your records to power in New York, power in LA, hot in New York, and expecting to get a needle drop. Like, it's going to take you some time before you need to get to that level.
Right. So how much are people paying attention to the perfection of your music at that point? Or are they giving you, when you get a new artist that comes up there, how much are you saying, okay, I understand he's going to grow into this or she's going to grow into this, or they should be at this point already?
For singers, I think it's more important to have a slightly better mix on your records and some more polished rap. I think you could go, whatever way it happens to come out for the most part. But singers, you don't want to hear low-quality demos, and you don't want to hear poorly mixed records. I think it's hard to poke through, but that doesn't mean go out and spend $5,000 getting your record mixed for your demo.
Where do you find where does you and your label think that they find the most artists? Where do you think you in your searches, where do you discover the most artists? Is it SoundCloud? Is it people sending you stuff and reaching out to you? Is it you reaching out? Do you have favorite sites? How do you find a new artist?
I'm probably the broadest amalgamator out there, I guess. I take it from everywhere, personally. That means websites, Twitter, Vine, blogs, radio, YouTube, straight stats, meaning like digital stats. I'm all over the place. I don't.
And are you looking for a finished project, or are you looking for one song?
No, I'm cool with the song. Like, I think it's hard. If somebody has a finished project, that's amazing. But I not even necessarily a song, just talent. So if I can hear talent in a record, if I hear somebody that can rap like King Los, then I'm going to pay attention. If I hear somebody that's doing something different, there's an act I'm looking at now that's doing something different, and it's still rap. And you would think, oh man, that's kind of a hard thing to do at this point. It's not. Like, they flipped it. So, just be different.
But at this point, I mean, so you see kids and they'll put out tape after tape after tape of new material that might fall on deaf ears if it's not making those connections. Do you think that they should continue to do that kind of stuff, or really let's find that one song? Are we in a day and age where it is about that one song? How much of it is that Bobby Shmurda moment versus, the new artist who's got that really, really dope project through and through from top to bottom with all the credibility in the world on it, but no song that can get you on the chart?
It can go both ways. I mean, we've got signings that are coming up that have gone the route of, just, being consistent with their material and making cohesive projects. And, we've got things on the other side that are just, the of the moment record maybe, or not a one and done sort of mentality, but, they've captured a moment with a particular record or a particular video. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I think if you've done 5 or 6 tapes and, you're not getting anywhere, it may be time to reevaluate something.
Right. Anything else you could think of offhand you want to add about, something new artists should focus on?
I know everyone says it, be different. It's so real, because if nobody's looking for stuff that everyone else is doing.
Right.
And you could fall into it. You may still succeed doing what other people are doing. But be different. And then also it always helps to have people who are in the industry who know what they're doing. Whether it's a lawyer, somebody that works at a label, somebody who's just been successful, somebody that works at a website. Just having some sort of connection can definitely help, and being in the mix and making friends, even if it's an intern.
Right.
I know people we've signed that our interns have liked, so it's happened.
Funny. It seems like also another part is if you do happen to know someone, listening to them and not assuming you know everything kind of helps sometimes. Yeah.
No.
That seems like everybody knows everything already. You can't really tell them anything.
Oh, when you better be really special if you've got somebody that already figured it all out. I mean, I have a fun story that I would tell another day. The short version, just somebody who was just borderline insane in my office, who I was looking at a few years ago, who did some ridiculous things in my office, and that was a wrap. So, and he's still unsigned 3 years later. So I was probably right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting is that you never know who you're going to cross paths with, and that person you cross paths with, who else they speak to. You know, we've been around artists before who wanted to be freshmen or, you know, wanted different opportunities and things, and then we would hook them up with people, and how they handled that connect kind of was a reflection of how they handle other things, you know?
Jerry,
so,
a different artist,
all the time.
same thing. I had somebody set up a meeting for an artist, and that artist came in and 20 minutes later was saying how they didn't want anything to do with the artist that had set up that meeting.
Right.
And it was an artist of caliber who had set up the meeting, so that was another, okay, well, you're not going to be great to work with, so
right.
Best of luck.
All right, so that was Jay Graham. One thing to clear up is early on we called this podcast as a joke, kind of dying to come out and blow up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think we still kind of call that a little bit, and that's kind of a throwback to DWE. Shout out Leah Rose, who I'm sure is not listening to this, but you know, a little joke between us from back in old school XXL days. Anyway, so dying to come out and blow up. I think that, first of all, I think Jay Graham's fascinating, and you could definitely tell that he's a serious music fan. And one takeaway, if I was a new artist from his interview, is he's listening to everywhere. He's going everywhere. He's on SoundCloud. He's on Twitter. He's on sites I've never heard of, you know, so to know that the labels are paying attention to all those little outlets, or maybe not even little, but all those different outlets that people can get themselves out, you know, it should be heard that the labels are listening to that there are big dogs, not just interns, big dogs sitting up there that are paying attention to those outlets. And we got the same thing with Mike, Karen. So I think that was an interesting takeaway to know that, you know, they're grinding just as much as the new artist is grinding. The label person, you know, the label rep is grinding to try and find that new artist. They want to find them, which was, you know, I guess we knew that, but we didn't know to the degree that they're really kind of searching for that artist and digging them up.
The thing I liked about what he said was, like, you know, being out there on the hunt was that the majority of the outlets that he mentioned were online outlets.
Well, they're free outlets. The tools are out there if you can figure them out, and not every tool is going to work for everyone. So if someone, Twitter works for them, and maybe Jay Grand or whoever it is, we have Riggs later, you know, gets to an artist through Twitter, they might get through one through SoundCloud, that the artist should be trying everything because they don't know in what chance they're going to be discovered, you know? Mm-hmm. I guess so. What do you focus on? You focus on what outlets are you the best at? Are you the best at working? You know, you can't do them all. Maybe you can, but you can't do them all great. So which ones do you kind of focus on? Do you build your SoundCloud up? Do you build your YouTube up? Do you, take to Twitter on like a Banshee, you know, and go nuts on there, you know, and do you use things that are new, technology that is, you know, if people are stumbling on it and finding artists through that way, then the artist should use it trying to be heard that way, you know? Right. Another thing he said, which mimicked what Wale said last week, is discovering what kind of artist you are. You know, how do you figure out what you're going to focus on without figuring out what kind of artist you are first? And that goes into building your identity. Are you a blue-collar rapper? Are you doing it for the success? Are you doing it for survival? Are you doing it to make money? Are you doing it to be true to yourself and get your art out there? But defining that, which is kind of building your identity, is going to help you to figure out next on what's important, what's your next step. And I think that was... maybe it's obvious at this point. If Wale and Jay Grant are both saying it to it, it's obvious. But still, stop and think about that. Is what's your vision for yourself, not just tomorrow, but down the road. And that kind of will make the steps for you, you know?
Mm-hmm. And he also was just saying how, like, you know, it's hard to be perfect. Like, artists come out and they want to be these perfect creatures. I loved
early on.
Yeah, I loved what he said about, you know, it's hard to be perfect. Kind of like, you know, being you and accepting your flaws, like, you know what I mean?
Well, and then he said it's okay to switch up your style early on.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe it's a little bit down the road when you're already established and everyone knows who you are. You play around on, you know, Kanye 808s, you know, it was creative. Right. But early on, it's okay to switch up your style and learn who you are and define yourself more. Mm-hmm. And what do you focus on? Maybe it's your sound, you know, and finding out which is right for you, which one connects with your audience the most, you know? But also videos, how important videos are.
Right, yeah.
You know, and we're watching everything online these days. We know that. So, you know, sometimes you might not think a music video is worth it if it doesn't have all the views, you know, or it isn't viral or whatever, but then if somebody wants to find you and you've got a whole bunch of videos to look through, I guess it gives you a pretty much a catalog early on,
Right. That's funny because he even said, he was like, out of all the things kind of, needed to kickstart your career, visual is like almost number one of the things that, you should check off the list first. So.
Right. That and what everybody said to us, and I think will be a running theme from more people we talked to, interviews we've done that we haven't aired in future episodes, is be different. Right. And I think that's easier said than done, but it is the same theme over and over, is be different. Something in hip hop that a lot of people like to do is, if this worked for somebody, let's go do it.
Yeah.
This worked for Beyonce or this worked for J. Cole. Let's all throw albums out as a surprise. Or everybody signed to Young Money, everybody signed to Violator back in the day. Let's go do what everybody's doing. Mm. And I mean, it seems obvious and it seems like, I don't even know, but obvious seems simple, but be different. Like, get somebody's attention. Not to bring it back to freshmen, but in a lot of ways, that's what gets our attention for freshmen is, what are you doing differently than everybody else? Even though sometimes doing the same thing might get you to a better place, playing around and trying different things could help you, and you never know what you stumble into,
Mm-hmm. For sure.
All right, so the next one on deck that we have is A$AP Rocky. So we caught up with A$AP Rocky, just dropped a new album, is a rap superstar from Harlem, which is great that we have a new one since the Diplomats. And he was not so confident in giving out advice, I think, here. He didn't really want to give advice, just kind of wanted to say what he's done and how it worked for him, but that becomes advice in itself, right?
Right.
All right, so let's check out what A$AP Rocky has to say about what to focus on, or what did he focus on in order to get where he's at early on.
So you're a new artist. You're from New York at the time. What do you do, or what can you do in order, when it's a city that's got a lot of people from it that are trying to get on, not an obscure city? How do you get yourself heard? What do you think is the most important thing to get to the music DJs? Who do you think are the important connections if you're a new artist in New York? Where
I think you should make music and put it out there into the universe. And if it's good, opportunity will come knocking. Simple as that. I really, I'm like Sway, I don't have the answers.
You don't have the answers, but you have your own, what you did.
Yeah, so that's all I could do, is just give it to you from my point of view and the way I experienced it. I think it's one of those things where it was praying in a lot of work. It took a lot of hard work, and before you know it, God answered and opportunity came knocking.
Do you think people are prepared for how much hard work it was? Do you think you were prepared for how much work it's been?
Nah, I wasn't prepared, but I adjusted. I adjusted quick.
You adjusted quick.
Yeah, you have to.
How? The people around you are forcing you to adjust by watching everything that's going on?
Nah, you as an individual. See, this has to do with you being secure and knowing you as an individual first. You gotta, you just gotta be you, and you gotta go from there.
So it's all about your confidence.
For me, I guess, I don't know. I don't really observe my inner or my subconscious or my actions, and I don't really digest it like that, or dissect it like that.
What have been your biggest hurdles along your path for your career, would you say?
Adjusting to not smacking the shit out of people and shit like that, and not getting in trouble no more, getting sued. The funnest part about being in my position, I don't have to act tough. I don't gotta be no tough guy, none of that shit. I could just chill, be cool, and it's cool, all that. I feel like people who are from in different predicaments, they gotta do it by default. Half of the people who sell drugs, they hate selling drugs. Mm-hmm. They probably would be doing something way better with their time if they could. They just don't got the opportunity. So for me, it's a mental thing. Getting out of one environment, going into another, you just gotta adjust with the atmosphere and the habitat. And I first got on, y'all remember reading about articles about us wilding and stuff. When the last time you heard about me going to jail? I damn near don't even fit the typical rapper stereotype. I ain't got no baby mamas. I got one ear pierced. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you ain't hear about me doing, you know, thank God, nothing with bad credit and all this other shit. And, you know what I mean? It's just my forte ain't what these other niggas is doing. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I can't really, unless somebody's like me, it worked for me. It's different strokes for different folks. So, I mean, I could tell you how it worked for me, but I can't necessarily promise that's going to work for any of these young artists. What I can tell them is do their own thing. Do your thing. Believe in you. And if you're dope, the universe is going to come knocking, man. I'm telling you, opportunity is going to come knocking. Other than that, like, I can't tell motherfuckers how to do it, you know. I'm figuring out life myself, and I'm just comfortable with knowing if I fail, you know. Failure is it's inevitable at some point. You gotta fail, and that's what dictates what type of person you are. Is how you deal with, you know, failing or demise or, you know, falling. So it's about how you get back up. So I can't tell these kids what to do, man. I'm not no role model, man. I just lead by example. I do what I do, you know. But
I think it's interesting. One thing is that, you know, we meet with a lot of new artists, and there is no path. There is no do this, and it will get you here. It's a series of things wherever it will take you, and who knows where it takes you. It's kind of how it plays out.
That's why people do whatever for attention today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got these Snapchats and Vines and Instagrams and people that just, these are platforms for people to act a fool for attention. So be it. Play on.
Harlem. All right, so we have some good stuff from A$AP Rocky, who definitely, as you see, you know, didn't want to act like he was giving too much advice. He wanted to talk from experience, but I respect that because I think, you know, one of the main things he did say is there's no exact path,
Right.
you know, and however he got there was his way. And I think that's something that we see time and time again is there is no path. We could listen to this whole podcast. Whoever it is could listen to every episode of this, and none of this might help them, or it might, because there is no real rhyme or reason. Maybe with athletes, you have to be really good. You have to go and make certain moves and meet certain people. I mean, it just seems like the Wild West in hip hop,
Right.
that you could follow all of these rules. You could go be different and get out of your city and do this, but that there is no exact way. And however he stumbled into it was just by chance, you know, by whatever grind that he did, and it actually worked.
Mm-hmm. I did like what he said about just kind of being able to adjust to different environments. Like later in the interview, he had mentioned that, you know, we don't see him anymore getting arrested or blah, blah, blah. I love how he said how he's now kind of learning to adjust to different environments. Because so many times rappers will come up to XXL and, you know, it's more of like, you know, we're more of a hip hop outlet, so we're a little more lenient. But along with that, in our office, there are corporate people, and they'll be up in here loud and ratchet and, you know, not saying, you know, do your thing, but it's just better when you have an artist who can be loud and ratchet at a show or be a vibrant personality, but still know how to act when they come into the office.
Well, that's the business side of things, is
Yeah.
learning the business sides, which often takes time, you know, but some guys get it off bat. But I think, you know, he's saying that there are adjustments to get used to it,
Right.
meaning that however you live your life now, whatever you're doing now, it's not always going to be that way. This is, you know, you're going to have adjustments in your camp. This dude's not going to fly. You're going to have adjustments in your deal. You're going to have adjustments in the way you do your live show. You're going to have adjustments in your living situation, you know, and we go through those adjustments without being a celebrity, no matter you're doing it when you are a celebrity, or you can't be stuck in one position. And I think he learned that along the way, is just who you are, and everything that you represent is cool, but be prepared for some kind of change, and you got to go with those changes. You can't just stay exactly who you are in one place. You've got to grow, and sometimes you're forced into an adjustment or forced into a change, but you still have to, you know, kind of take part of it. I also thought it was interesting that he hesitated. I'm not a role model. That's so, you know, old school Charles Barkley, right? You know, I'm not a role model, but, you know, I guess I kind of disagree, because he's not a role model, but celebrities are so important at this point that we're talking to him about his experience, that there is an element of a role model. And I don't know if that's important for an artist to think of right now, but the more and more success you get, the more and more you are recognized, not just on the street, but for the moves you make.
It comes along with it.
It comes along with it. You know, that's the old argument. Are you a role model or you're not because you're a celebrity? I mean, I guess it's how much you take it seriously, you know, or how you take to it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like, you know, Rocky was relatively surprised by, you know, where he is right now, by the journey, you know, that he wouldn't predict that he would end up here right now where he is. And that's probably part of this whole thing is when you're on one side of it, that doesn't necessarily mean, or you're in one position, that doesn't necessarily mean things are going to end up exactly where you think they're going to. They might even be better or might be worse, but it's so unpredictable, you know? That's the biggest takeaway, I think, is that it's so unpredictable of what's going to happen, you know?
Mm-hmm. Cause it's just kind of like, you know, sometimes, like you said, it's the luck of the draw. Like from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, you're successful, so you know all the right tools to get there. But in reality, you're just kind of like, oh shit, like, you know.
And it's also release your music, like you said, get your music out there, make it as good as it can be, and get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's essential. Is you want to know what to focus on? Well, you'll focus on making this shit as hot as it can be, so people want to hear more of it. That seems simple enough, but. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of different elements. You have to figure out, well, you're already doing that, well, why isn't it working?
Mm-hmm.
You know, or am I not doing that? I have everything else together, but I really have to get, you know, my chops together as far as my releases, or I'm not paying attention to details, or, you know, I know I could be working with better producers or that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of the rappers, like when their music isn't as strong, they tend to rely on, like, you know, the social networks, like the Snapchat.
The personality.
The Snapchats and the Vines.
That could take you, you know, I mean, I guess that can take you to a certain level. We have to see where it is, though. But I don't know if that gives you the credibility that you want it to give you, you know?
Mm-hmm. And more makes you a reality star versus a Grammy award-winning artist. You know what I mean?
Right. And because reality stars are so new, we still don't know what happens to the old reality star 10 years after they retire, and how do they age or have money, you know? Mm-hmm. And that goes back to what's your goal? What do you focus on? You know, what do you want to be? And, you know, do you want to be that artist that gets credibility for the lyrical talent? You want to be that artist that's rich by any means, and it doesn't matter. You'll change your art. You'll change what you do for the check. Do you want to be the guy that at the end of the day, you know, never had the ghostwriter and did everything of his own art and never had anybody put any input in? You know, it's all those different things. I mean, it's really kind of staying true to yourself. And I think that changes. That goal changes. It can change along the way.
Most definitely.
All right. So for this last interview, we have Vic Mensa. Vic Mensa came up and talked way more than we thought he would, which was great, and gave us a little insight. Vic is gearing up for a project at some point. I don't know. I haven't heard the date of his album, or if I don't remember offhand, but there'll be a Vic Mensa project coming out, and he was one of our freshmen from a few years ago that we've been really happy with to see his success. So let's see what Vic Mensa has to say about what you focus on.
So, you know, I tell people when I meet him that it's not enough to work hard, you know? It's not enough to spend every day in the studio doing nothing different from the kid in the studio across the hall from you. You know, you could do that, and you can burn off steam and go nowhere. I always try to tell kids, like, you know, there's a couple of the most important things that you can do are, you know, try to do something different than the next person, as well as, you know, being yourself, trying to be as truthful to yourself as you can. I had a friend of mine gave me, like, I think what's been some of, like, the best advice to me, just as a writer, which is that I was trying to decide between, like, two lines in, like, a song we were writing, and he was like a country music artist had told him this: try to tell as much truth as possible, you know? Like, if you are trying to decide, like, how you're trying to come, what you want to say, the most truthful way to go, I think it is the best way to go. And I also tell kids, like, yo, like, don't just be fucking sitting around making, like, 17-track mixtapes and, like, just, like, dropping them on your Twitter and then going on to the next one. Like, shoot a music video. You know, music videos are, like, they're our biggest, or definitely one of our biggest assets, you know, as independent artists and signed artists, major, everything. You know, it's about innovation, and it's about just making the right critical steps. You know, I try to tell kids, like, make a dope music video, think about it, try to find the right person, do something interesting, because that's how you're going to catch people's eye.
Is it important to get familiar with your local radio? Is radio important for new artists? Is it important to get, affiliated with the hip hop scene in your city, or is that not as important?
Here's the shit we did. We used to take our tapes in high school, and we'll hop on Twitter, and we would tell the different high schools, like, yo, whoever retweets the most or tweets at us the most from Lincoln Park High School, between Lane Tech High School, we're coming to the school at this time on this day. And we would go to these schools, and we would go with our squad. We would have mad fucking CDs, and we would be selling them to kids. We'd be giving away posters, taking pictures, signing autographs. This is before all of this type of shit. This is when I was like 17. We were in the hallways at school, yelling, like, selling our shit. We used to be out on the street in Chicago, illegally, like, wheat pasting posters onto the walls, like, we got a show, or we just dropped a song. Like, I remember I made a poster when my band dropped a song, and I put that poster, like, all over. We were, like, ducking cops, and I'm not telling kids you got to do that, but, we were posting the shit, putting it up physically. It had the little, the barcode thing you could scan on your phone. And,
just being creative.
Yeah, be creative, and also just make, it's about exposure, you know what I'm saying? It's like the same way, it's just that at this point in time we have so many resources at our disposal because of the day and age we live in, that it's like you gotta approach what you're doing like Sprite approaches a marketing campaign, and they go to an advertisement agency to try and get as many exposures as they can. It's like you can do that on your own level. If you just think about where you are, what you got popping in your city, if you know that there's a show going on, then maybe it's a good idea for you to go by that show and put up some of your posters for your shit.
Even if you're not performing.
Even if you're not performing. Like, we used to put posters up the whole fucking street. Like, we would staple the posters together and put them up every pole on the street because we were, like, opening for the show.
Right.
But we, like, if anybody comes to the show, they finna see that we're here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just wanting that shit. If you want it and you think about it and you work, you put in those hours, it's possible. It's like studies show that niggas ain't born with Mozart talent, It's something that not anybody, but pretty much everybody can attain by trying hard enough, and working smart. That's why I tell niggas, work smart.
So you've now been working with Kanye. You're both from Chicago. Is there important to you to connect with people from Chicago, or that's kind of more coincidental? You're both from there. It's more about a musical collaboration.
I don't find any of, like, the major things that happen in my life to be coincidental, really. I'm just kind of like a believer in things happening for a reason. So, the fact that Ye from Chicago and I'm from Chicago, it's not just like a side note, Mm-hmm. It's like my big homies, their big homie is Kanye Camp, Right. So I'm kind of just like a generation down from them, right. And kind of, cut from that same cloth. And, but it's awesome though, but it's definitely
so there's a value to respecting the people that came before you within your city.
For sure. I think it's important too. That's another thing, about owning your city. It's important to, to make relationships, with the people that tastes make in your city,
right.
And not everybody's that social of a person. I just happen to be a social person, and so it was never like a conscious decision to me, like, I'm gonna go try to get in with this guy who owns this store. Like, I was just a kid that was my thing. I just like to get fresh, so I was always hanging out at the boutique sneaker stores and shit, and I was just really cool with the owners of all of them because I was a little homie and I was just always hanging out and rapping and getting fresh. And it's important to lock into those people because at this point now, some of those same dudes that I remember would let me skip the line coming into leaders on the south side of Chicago when it's cold outside when I was 15 years old. Now them same niggas is working with, people like Emery from Rock Nation. And the fact that that's my big bro, it's like it's a great connection. It's good to like seek out the people that are making impact, in your city, not just in rap, but in anything that interests you. Like seek out those people and like try and pick up that game because the more relationships you got, the more people that fuck with you, like the more looks you could get thrown.
Perfect. Anything else you want to add? Because that was perfect.
Get you some money, my nigga. No, oh no. Yeah, and save money too. Definitely save your money. A lot of these dudes, like, be out here thirsty, like, get a little check and just fuck it off on some dumb shit. Like, I got save money tatted on my arm, and it's not because I'm penny pinching. It's because you got to look at the bigger picture, Like, maybe, when I was making, like, the internet tape and stuff that got me, like, on the XXL cover, I didn't really have no money because I was spending all my money on studio time. Like, when I was a kid, when I was, like, 15 years old, I was buying mad Jordans and shit like that because I was hustling and doing my thing and figuring it out, and that's what I was spending my money on. I was mad fresh. When I was doing the internet shit, I was looking bummy as shit on a daily basis, and it's just because I was like, fuck all that other shit. Like, you know what I mean? Buying clothes and shit is not gonna get me anywhere, I invested in myself. So it's like, you gotta watch what the fuck you do with your money because they don't teach us how to hold money. They give us payday loan storefronts and tell you, like, go spend your shit on a fucking watch. It's like, you need to, like, take a step back, invest in yourself. Yeah.
All right. So my biggest takeaway from that Vic Mensa interview is how important he thinks it is to pay attention to promotion and marketing.
Yes.
And early on, before he was freshman, before he linked with Kanye, before he linked with Rock Nation, before he kind of is at the position he's in now, how much in Chicago he paid attention to getting his name out there. Almost, I don't know if it's more than his music. I don't want to say that, but definitely as much was to get the name out there, get the crew's name, presence, visuals. I mean, off bat, how essential he thinks it is to shooting music videos. That's one of the biggest assets that we have today, to be seen, and embraced, and everybody knows who you are as a music video, which I think we saw a lot of examples that even with, OG Maco's, no, son, I lost the song, but with OG Maco and his videos.
Oh yeah.
It's essential to kind of use that visual, not just the way you sound, but the way you look and what we see, and get those videos out there. That was a surprise. I didn't think that was so important to him early on.
For sure. And the crazy, even with like a video like Trap Queen, I feel like the Trap Queen video kind of almost started that craze in a way. Like, the song was great.
Yeah.
But seeing how, like, when we first got introduced to that song, we watched the video, you know what I mean? So it's very, very, very essential to focus on that video, primarily.
That comes back to, that we have so many different resources at our disposal because of technology, that from making the video that, you don't have to spend a fortune like you used to flyers. And he was mentioning, one thing really cool was Vic said, hey, there's an artist that's going to be performing. Well, we should get over there and put our flyers up and put our flyers out, and wheat paste. I mean, I haven't heard about wheat pasting posters in 100 years, but what you had to do to kind of get out there. And if I'm online somewhere, going to be looking around to what's going on, what not just the next show is, but when you go to an event in the city and you see a street team out there in full force, at some point you got to acknowledge who that is and what's out there in full force and see, should I be paying attention to this? And that's as the journalist. Now the fan should be sitting there saying, I see this all over the place. Maybe I should be paying attention to this. So it seems like that marketing and promo early on is essential these days, especially with all the different outlets. It costs nothing to go and print a T-shirt these days, or 1,000 T-shirts. Everybody wants to make your custom T-shirt, your custom bandana, your custom this, your custom that. But at the same time, should you be spending money on all that? That's the balance of, making sure that your music is good and making sure, are these kind of different marketing tools worth it for you based on your city, based on the environment? Are you not even at shows enough for people to want to recognize you like that,
I love that because nowadays it seems like rappers are just too almost bougie in a sense to go to different shows and wheat paste their posters. Or
rappers are superstars with one song that nobody's heard because they have a song,
and that's not even cool. Getting out there and putting your stuff at another show is only going to benefit you. You know what I mean? Take the two down a bit. You know what I mean? Don't act so bougie. Don't be afraid to get out there and really promote your stuff because in the end, it's only going to benefit you,
Yeah. Vic also think it's important to make relationships with the tastemakers in your city. That leads a little bit to our next topic for the next episode for next week, which is, owning your city or getting out of your city. What should you be focusing on there? Should it be kind of taking over that city and dominating and becoming the voice? Is it hard to do that when you're from a city that already has rappers? That's next week, but, acknowledging that I think is a big part of it, is that what do you focus on? Well, where are you at in your city? Who are you competing with? What chance do you have? Why are you at that show and not opening on that show rather than just going through and throwing stickers all over the place? And that seems like a shift right there in all of it.
And he down from when he's like, the dudes that would kind of when he was opening up for people, the dudes that were at the door letting people in are now the dudes that are working with Kanye. Pay attention to those people on your way up.
Oh, that's the whole thing. I mean,
Right.
You look back, I've been around for a minute, you look back and you can't believe that person became, no disrespect, Riggs is great, but I remember when Riggs was working at Shady, now he's, the big badass over at Atlantic. So you don't really realize who around you is going to work the way up the ladder while you do. Even if you're working up the ladder as a performer, that DJ that you stepped on might be the next hottest DJ from your local radio, or might end up with some weird label deal or label position, and all of a sudden you're crossing paths with them and you already stepped on them a few years earlier,
Right. So just even though they might not be the biggest name now, if you see them and you constantly see them in your face, they might be worth building a relationship with.
And that's something we got from the Joey Badass interview. Joey said, I came in early in the industry. I came into the industry early. I don't even know if we ran this clip yet, but I came into the industry early and I didn't really pay attention to the relationships. I talked to the cool people, and then I didn't pay attention to how important it was everyone I was meeting. So now I have to go and reestablish these relationships because I didn't pay attention to these people early because they weren't cool enough, yet they were very important and essential. And you don't really know who that next big person's going to be, that next big tastemaker is going to be, that big personality. So it's making those relationships, establishing and keeping them, and understanding that it's not always who you think is going to be more valuable. That person sitting next to the person might be the next exec,
Just like with you, starting out as a new artist is a growing process. So, you know what I mean? Just as you're growing, they're growing too.
Right, that they're growing, exactly, that they're growing on the other side, yeah. All right, so that is what to focus on. Easier said than done, because no matter what, you have to figure out what's right for you based on the city you're in, what you're doing already, what you beef up. And as Vic said, don't spend too much money. So then how do you promote yourself? How do you focus? What do you focus on? And how do you balance out the budget? That's based on what you see you're getting the most out of. If you're printing up a whole bunch of stickers and putting stickers everywhere and not feeling any sort of difference, stop printing the stickers.
Yes.
Or something. Or if you're printing up a whole bunch of T-shirts and nobody's wearing your T-shirts and they're throwing them away, or using them for whatever, just the gym for nothing, maybe you don't need the T-shirts. And maybe you do, because maybe the person at the gym might be the right person. But you got to kind of pick what you're getting feedback from, or what you're kind of getting the most out of, I think. All right, so next week, what's Miranda, what we got next? We've got...
Our next topic is owning and getting out of your city.
Right, exactly, which is what I keep forgetting our topics sometimes because we have so many, which is what Vic talked about, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So next week, tune in. We're going to be talking to Zach Quillen, manager of Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. Riggs Morales is the vice president of A&R at Atlantic Records. And Kid Ink from the West Coast, who was... got a lot of fans out there and all across the board at this point, and a successful freshman, which we're excited about. And they're going to be telling us a little bit about owning and getting out of their city.
Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 2. We really appreciate you guys. Appreciate all those that came back, and we even appreciate the new listeners.
All right, that's it.